Amit, I would like to understand from you, like we talked about the technology and digitization and the reach perspective, but somehow these changes have also evolved the business models. So how do you see these business models are getting evolved, and how are the maximum affordable credit will be coming up to the MSMEs in near future?
Sure, Vikrant. So before I answer your specific question, just some perspectives on the fantastic topic you've chosen, the 5 trillion economy and what MSMEs can do. Just to put things in perspective, sometimes the numbers help us put things in perspective. So we all know, and what is talked about is MSMEs contribute X percentage of India's GDP, which is 30%, X percentage to exports, which is 50%, and 30% of GDP, just 3.5 trillion, is almost 1 trillion. So that's a contribution by MSMEs. That's something which I'm sure the entire hall knows. What is not talked about, and what a lot of us may not be familiar with, is what can this sector do? Now, the total credit gap for MSMEs in the country is about $800 billion. And 20 years back, when I started my career, it used to be 100 billion. Over 20 years now, it's grown to almost 8 times $800 billion. If we could find a solution to bridging this gap, each rupee of capital given to SMEs results in a 1.5 multiplier at the very, very conservative estimate. That's a study shown across the world, including US and Europe as well. What that could do is create additional economy of almost 1.2 to 1.5 trillion dollars. Now, out of the additional 1.5 trillion we have to create, if potentially in a year we have a solution to this credit gap, we could create the entire additional economy just by MSMEs. That's a value, that's a significance, and that's why I think a wonderful topic chosen for this session. Now, what is important is how do we bridge that gap? And that's important. And a lot of things the fellow panelists have spoken about already on the whole digital public infrastructure, which is huge enablers. And I think a lot of work has happened already. But to me, the how has 2 parts, 2 core problems. Because for some reason, the banking industry has not been able to bridge the gap fully. Now, let's understand why. And which is where I will come to your question as well. At the core of the problem, why the gap exists, is SMEs are not large corporates. Right? They are not as formal, they are not as organized, and hence the models, the business models that apply when you're looking at a corporate customer, how do you lend to him, are not applicable for MSMEs. Right? That's at the core of the problem, number 1. Number 2 is the ticket sizes for MSMEs is a fraction of the ticket sizes for a large corporate. If a large corporate, you will give 1,000 crore loan, you will possibly give a 1 crore loan to an MSME, it's 1,000. And hence, the technology becomes a big enabler. For a variety of reasons, the Indian banks have not been able to solve for these 2 challenges. I think to some extent they have, to a large extent they have not. And hence, whatever solution you look at as a business model, operating model, has to solve for these 2 core problems. Which is where 2 things are very, very exciting as we look at it. Number 1 is the whole digital public infrastructure we spoke about, and the formalization. And again, some numbers help us put things in right perspective. Till not many years back, till 2014, 15, 16, the number of formal MSMEs was few lakhs. It was less than 10 lakhs. Today, the number is a staggering 3.5 crore, 35 million. Right? That's the amount of work which has gone in ensuring that the MSMEs are ready, more formally, more organized, more structured, and hence more credit flow can happen. And that's fantastic work which has happened in the government. And we all need to thank the whole government and the whole ecosystem for enabling this formalization. That's one. Second is the challenges that banks deal with in innovating because of their processes, structures. There is fintechs. And hence, what is important is this this partnership between the banks, which have huge strengths in distribution, strengths in lower cost of capital, and the fintechs which can innovate at a much, much faster speed. Amazing session before this, Shashank spoke about the whole agility. Right? That brings innovation, which is where fintechs come in, tech capabilities. Now this combination, this partnership is the solution to solving that $800 billion gap. Now, what operating model will enable this is a question. Multiple models exist, co-origination exists, pure FLDG based model is where the whole fintech story started way back in 2015, 16. And now there is a very interesting model of trades. One of the really big models which has scaled up in the right partnership is TRADS Trades, which is enabling almost 15,000 crore of financing each month in partnership with 60 banks. And again, that's another example of the whole digital public infrastructure. Fantastic concept, thought through very well by RBI, and that's channelizing huge flow. So this is the operating model that multiple models have to be thought through, and the right model will hopefully scale up. But to me, this is a question. And second, of course, is the whole risk. How do you look at the risk of MSME, which is where again this digital public infra with account aggregators enabling access to bank statements, to GSTs, to the CIBIL will be the second big lever that will hopefully help us solve this huge problem and enable the $5 trillion economy.